Hey, 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 party people, welcome to the Dental Efficiency Playbook. My name is Gabe Hoffman, also known as the Dental Efficiency Guy. I am super excited to talk to my friend, Curt Swogger, CEO of North Pittsburgh Oral Surgery today. Curt and I go way back. Curt and his team are doing some amazing things in the OS space, but also in the group space, and he is a seasoned executive in the DSO space. So I'm very excited to talk to Curt today. We are going to be focusing on some hot takes in operations in the DSO space, including AI, trust, front versus back, right? Clinical versus operations or admin and the relationship there. So some really exciting stuff. Curt, welcome to the Dental Efficiency Playbook.
Thanks, brother. Happy to be here. And to think I
Yeah.
knew you before the dental efficiency guide tag. That's awesome,
Hey,
man.
so
But you earned it. It's so good.
absolutely, absolutely. What I think when I saw you at Becker's in Chicago, we were realizing that it had been 15 plus years, right?
Been a minute. Yep.
So the dental efficiency guy is coaching that dates back to my early operations days and just focused on finding a simpler, streamlined way to both optimize the delivery of patient care and reduce costs in doing so. And again, reclaim time. That's where I was coined by my peers, the dental efficiency guy, and it became a DBA for my coaching organization. So that's what it is.
I love it.
As you know, I also spend a lot of time talking to group owners and talking about the AI landscape and AI automation, which is something I know you and I have connected on as well. There's so many different players coming into the space. There's a lack of trust in the DSO market, understanding multiple different factors on knowing how to implement and what the right fit is. But I want to focus today on what we were talking about the other day, Curt, on the relationship between that you've experienced recently between the clinical organization in a group and the front desk or admin or operations, front desk operations, the business operations in a group. Let's talk about that relationship and what you're seeing in the industry today.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe, and really happy to be here. When I look at that relationship between the front and the back, I go back to my early days in the dental space, and one of the things I was taught was we need to work as an operator to break down that barrier between the carpet and the linoleum, right? And build that relationship between the front and the back. And depending on the leadership team and the mission, vision, values of that organization, sometimes that's clearly defined. I mean, you know exactly what that looks like and what you need to do. I think with private equity, and now, we're starting to hear words like independent sponsor, which is a different version of the private equity model. And we can talk about that. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to what's driving that growth, what the interest is. But for me, it really comes down to that team inside the four walls, going back to that barrier between the carpet and linoleum, the front and the back, and making sure you're removing that and that everybody understands what right looks like. We talk about alignment and making sure that that entry level person, that front office person, patient service representative understands all the way up to the top, the CEO and their vision and vice versa. Everybody has a role to play. And there has to be some semblance of trust and respect. We've talked about, there's speed and trust. I'm with an organization right now where the surgeons, I mean, they're rock stars. They're fantastic surgeons. They're great people. You can look at our reviews. They speak for themselves. Our patients are getting the care they need. And they understand and they respect operations. They understand that what they're doing in the operatory is going to be different than what's out there in terms of the behaviors, to help drive the result, which is making sure they're supported and patients get the care they need. And I've run into over the years a disconnect with that. So going back to that carpet and linoleum piece, where that clinical trumps everything, and there's no respect or understanding in operations. And 6 months later, you realize you haven't grown, you haven't evolved, your turnover is through the roof. People
Of
aren't
course.
happy. and nobody knows why. And it's about that relationship, and trusting in one another and leveraging each other's strengths. Aces in
Sounds
their
like you're
places.
describing culture.
Yeah, I would say that's a big part of culture, right? Culture is what
Well,
people do when
alignment
no one's watching.
is yeah, right? Alignment is culture, and culture is alignment within the team. No, again, if you're trying to implement, like, a good way to gauge your culture is throw out an implementation to your team or try to change something and see if it sticks or if it's embraced. And how does it roll out? What is the trust? What is the implementation? What is the execution? What are the results? What is the accountability? The alignment from top to bottom, just like the mission, vision, values, but the alignment and the accountability is part of the organization. And leadership, as we know, Curt, leadership drives, it enhances that alignment and drives the accountability by clarity of vision, purpose, and the alignment. At the same time, the culture can empower the leaders. So there's a really interesting relationship there between existing culture and leaders helping to shape and build that culture. And as you were discussing, the clinical leadership embracing and understanding the business and having operators that understand the clinical business is absolutely key to continued growth, scaling in this business sustainably. As we know, the business of dentistry is, or our product is, a happy paying patient who repeats and refers. However, the administration of that business takes place outside of that operatory, and they have to be married in process and understanding and be working convergently, again, aligned towards that culture and those goals in order for it to continue to grow. And I know you've been hard at work in doing that and building that and putting all the resources in place at North Pitt Oral Surgery. But one thing I want to focus on is with the introduction, whether that's PE groups, whether that's external financing, all these different arrangements within groups, does it at times cause, I don't want to say muddy the water, but create a lack of clarity in with, especially with a reorg, right? When we're talking about new executives, redirect of the operations from a results standpoint, right? And new people in new places or constantly changing places, it can be very difficult for an organization to scale.
Yep.
What has been your experience to this point within the realm of, like, how long have you been at North Pitt Oral Surgery? It's been within the last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at 9 months. And we've done a tremendous amount of work in 9 months where, in some of my previous worlds, it's taken us 2 years. And again, it goes back to that trust piece. And I'll say this, whether it's a PE group getting involved, an independent sponsorship, or, private ownership, if you're going to scale the business, if you're going to improve things, you need to know what's going on. You have to have that strategic analysis,
For sure.
so going through, for example, a SWOT analysis, looking at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And more importantly, having that above board, honest conversation with the rest of the leadership team and the key stakeholders about, look, this is where we're at. You're telling me your vision. This is where you want to be. Well, let's map it out on how we're going to get there. Let's talk about what that looks like and make sure that you establish some opportunities to reaffirm that. If you need to course correct, have the conversation, but you continue to quarterback that along the way. And when you achieve some of those goals, you complete things, you high five. Look, for us, we want to take what is really over 40 years, 50 years of existence. It's a legacy, and we want to continue to improve on that legacy. So it means stabilizing, raising expectations, looking at things from a different point of view. We don't have private equity. You and I both come up from a world where private equity got involved, so there was a percent increase that we were looking at, and then on top of that, the private equity, improvement and their percent. And that's well and good, but culturally, I do think the waters can get muddied, especially if you're looking at a group that's coming in to get that multiples of EBITDA, and they're looking to do that in 3 to 5 years. You just mentioned earlier on one of my most passionate pieces, what I feel is a key to success, and that's culture, having a healthy culture. And I think that gets lost through the cracks, you know? Not
Well,
everybody, some people are in it for the long haul, but
one of my favorite quotes of all time, I was reminded last week in an event that I was at by Peter Drucker, originally, I believe, was culture eats strategy for breakfast. And he goes on to explain that no matter what your strategy is, if you don't have the vision, the accountability, the culture, it doesn't matter what you're trying strategically to roll out. And so obviously, as we know, consistency and embracing the discomfort in scaling, right? The ability to make decisions strategically, but roll those out is very key to growth. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but there's a level of there's so much movement in the market today around AI and automation. Lots of great stuff going on.
yeah, that's good stuff.
And I think that there is also a level of fear or discomfort in many of the groups that I speak with in how to navigate the industry and understand where do I implement first? What works best for my business? How do I evaluate this? Because there's this rush of AI everywhere, right? And so trust and understanding are very key. But I mention that because obviously in any culture, they that is a requirement for the alignment, right? So we're coming full circle. We were talking about culture, whether that is understanding how to implement an AI platform or that is rolling out, new team members or systems and processes. And, you know, one thing that even with all the AI, I think it's very important to understand that this communication, this emotion, this deflection in your voice, this connection does not or will not happen with AI ever.
That's right.
And so the human element that establishes culture, it embraces culture is a framework, but people execute that. Their behaviors and their personalities embrace it and build the fire within that culture. That will never be replaced by AI. AI will enhance, give you the time back from all the redundancy, all the things that we've all spent countless hours in our lives going down rabbit holes or data entry or all the admin time that now can be automated with fewer errors and issues to where now people can focus on people and impact. So it's truly a beautiful thing, but it is here and now. So I think it's important to understand that that you can't really ignore it. You have to understand that.
No, it absolutely is. And for me, it goes back to what you said earlier about culture and that foundation. It may appear counterintuitive that I built out a centralized billing office. We had a third party. I know you and I had talked many months ago when I first started. And, I made the executive decision to not leverage AI for billing, even though there's some great AI out there. And my reason was going back to that culture piece. Yes, human capital is our most expensive, component, but it is our most valuable. And we need to recognize that and support that. So by having a centralized billing office, not dealing with a third party, we now have a team in place that is effectively training and helping develop some of the other staff members who may not have had the sophistication or understanding of what we were doing. And when you're working the front office, if you don't have experience and the ability to understand what we're doing, that patient experience is going to suffer. We're not asking you to be a doctor. We're not asking you to be an expert, but you need to understand, even going back to our old world, the steps of a denture, and all of that. And these are some things that AI may not capture.
Good
you know,
learning. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So that, we have that
Understanding the
foundation now.
process.
Yeah, absolutely. But now I'm looking at how do we scale the business further? What do we need to do? And I am looking at AI. I'm looking at some AI credentialing. I know you and I are going to talk about some AI opportunities. It is here now. And I think anybody who's afraid of it is going to miss the opportunity to scale their business and be effective. You know, it's no longer about being a risk taker. It was a risk taker 5 years ago when it was relatively unknown or in the forefront. And now there's a lot of proven results here. It's an effective tool. You got to embrace it.
I just read last week on LinkedIn by Gary V. I followed Gary for 15 years, a long time since from the first time I saw him on, gosh, that might have been Wine List 15 years ago. I have a bunch of wine down in my basement. I don't even drink now because I rarely ever drink it, right? A glass here, a glass there, but I rarely just don't drink it like I used to. But anyway,
I bet it looks wonderful though.
well, yeah, and I'm like giving it away now, right? Like, hey, let me all the dinner parties or all the events where I can just bring it. I'll bring plenty. Don't worry about buying it. Anyway, with that said, it was very focused on being yourself at work. We don't need robotics in C-suites or in operations meetings, right? Those are the tools that allow us to execute at a higher level to be ourselves at work, which is what builds the culture. Personalities drive personalities. Just like somebody that comes in that's super high energy, that is all smiles, that is honest. And that is like, I had to share it because it was, I mean, he said it so well, but like, it's a matter of surfing to a certain extent, right? Learning how to stand up on you use the reference, surfing on a surfboard, whether you can surf or not, learning how to surf this market and ride the wave, choosing, right? Vetted partners, industry experience, relationships to drive the business. And I think why I do what I do now in this business is because I am so passionate about whether that's coaching or whether that's implementing AI automations, Curt, as you know very well, right? It's about allowing people to reach their goals and continue to scale, like to win more green lights on a daily basis.
Mhm.
Because when we were in operations in the early days, right, you're always struggling to win more than you lose. I mean, that
That's
was
right.
the game of business, right? Reduce distractions. Now there are tools and technology that literally give you 40 to 90% of your time back to be able to do that. It's not about replacing you. It's about empowering you to have the time to be more impactful with your team and with your patients. And
Absolutely.
to
Leverage your
me,
strengths.
we can make this into an opportunity to deliver patient care at a higher level.
That's right.
Think of a wow patient experience. If you don't have the time, you're on the phone with insurance or you're working a list, ASAP list, unscheduled list, right? Whatever, reports, generating data flows. You're not working with patients, focused on patients, or working with team members. And when people are working with people in practice, treatment acceptance, wow patient experience, everyone is working aligned, like that is where the magic happens, not when you're staring at
Absolutely.
a computer for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So, like, it was crucial then.
Mhm.
It's not crucial now.
No, and
What's
we're at
crucial
that
now
point.
is human to human contact. Anyway, so I'll get off my soapbox for a minute,
No,
but
I love your soapbox. Stay on it. And first of all, I want photos of your wine cellar. That sounds pretty cool.
okay, I will. Hey, maybe I'll send you. We've talked about meeting up in Pittsburgh. I'll bring
Yeah.
bring a couple
There you go.
bottles. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, at the end of the day, I mean, we're at that point. Like a lot of, I use the analogy chopping down trees before you can trim the grass. A lot of the big
sure.
issues have been
Good story.
addressed. We're capturing some low-hanging fruit. But now it's looking at how do I improve the quality of life of my team? Our front office staff, our patient, care coordinators, they struggle day in and day out, to your point, between the insurance piece, the phone calls, quarterbacking billing, care slips, patients in front of them, some of them happy, some of them not happy, the emotional piece. I mean, the threat of compassion fatigue and burnout is very real. So, we're upgrading our phone system to improve their quality of life. That's happening as we speak.
Great.
I'm looking at solutions for our practice management software. So that task loading of dealing with insurance and other things can go away. So to your point, they can remain more effective taking care of that patient. So when that patient comes in, like it's just you and that patient talking, undivided attention. We're going to get you the care that you need, and be done with it. So
Well, I know that you guys, and by the way, I'm excited for you to do that. I know the vendor that you chose, you're going to be, you made a great choice. You're going to be very happy with them as a partner, and likewise, that's going to be a big upgrade for you relative to the phone, the capture, the scheduling, etc. With that said, um, you guys have a ton of 5-star reviews, which and have are growing at an astronomical rate. So kudos to you and the work you and your team are doing
thank you.
in the 9 months you've been there. Truly, I want to go back to that though. What has been the vehicle for, again, so many practices, they struggle with 30, 40, 50 years, right? Long legacy, but they reach a level of growth and then elevating beyond that. So what has been the vehicle that has allowed you to take that 30, 40 years in business, you come into North Pitt and translate the clinical product to operational scaling?
Sure. A couple things, but first and foremost, I needed to do my due diligence. I knew during the interview process and hearing some of their pain points from their vantage point that I could help them. But I didn't know until I got involved exactly what it was going to look like in terms of me helping them. I needed to do my due diligence. I call it my diagnostic phase for the first couple months, and putting that SWOT analysis together and having that, that robust, part of our culture, we look at things from a family centric standpoint. Okay, well, are you the dysfunctional family, or are you that healthy family where we're in your corner cheering you on and we're going to have a tough conversation and still support one another? And that's where we choose to be. So it was a very tough conversation in the first couple months. This is where we're at. This is where I'm seeing things. I had to wrap my head around their vision to make sure that I could execute that. And they needed to give up some trust and support me in quarterbacking, that planning. And we've been doing that. So first and foremost, it starts at the top, Gabe. That leadership team has to be aligned on the same page. We may not like what we see and hear, but at least then we can fix it. And that's so very important. And here we are 9 months later, we don't have a lot of that, those issues anymore. We have momentum. I actually have the providers talking about, quarterly goals and operational planning. I was on a call with them yesterday, and one of them brought it up. It's like, well, we have the rest of this quarter. We've got to get this done. And I'm like, yes, that's alignment, man. That's like everybody's on the same page. They're executing what they need to do, and the rest of the team is there to help support them. And the patients reap the benefits. So it's good
Couple
stuff.
couple points sort of brought it back to trust relative to the alignment, right, as the basis for the alignment and the culture. So that's a beautiful thing. I heard recently from someone that I follow that is also building a group that when you reference your team as family, there's an understanding we can treat them like family, but the unconditional love that we provide and the forgiveness of family is an accountability in execution and results orientation either, right? We take family as they are. With team members, there are expectations and accountability and results. With our patients, we can create a family environment. With our team, there is obviously accountability that creates scalability. So
Yeah.
I really I couldn't like that more, because any group as you're looking to acquire, if they're like, well, me and my team, we're just family, there's some red flags there sometimes.
And you know what? That is so true. And I remember years ago when I would hear somebody say that, I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't hold anybody accountable. You let things slide. Nobody gets grounded, right? And that's not the case. It is tough love. It's like, look, I need you to do this. Well, I'm not going to do that. Well, but these are the rules of engagement. These are the expectations, and
Absolutely.
you know,
Had to mention it because
that's
it
good
was
stuff.
top of mind. Yeah, yeah, really, really. Um, so what do where do you see, right? You're so at North Pitt or even this is focused on hot takes. What the next 3 years in the market, right? Where do you see growth?
Yeah, look, oral surgery that as a specialty, it's untapped. I mean, the whole DSO model, s- you know, with large groups starting with ortho and endo and now oral surgery, there's some large PE backed groups out there. We are privately held. At the end of the day, we've got what 50 years of legacy. We want to preserve that legacy. Our story's not over. This is the next evolution of that story. So it's going to fall on me to continue to be transparent with the team from the top down, because people are nervous with change, right? It's not so much that change is going to be bad. It's the fear of change that typically trips people up, and you know just being transparent. But our story's not done. Like, it's an untapped community. Western Pennsylvania, Ohio, all of this, patients need care, and we've been able to deliver that. We're going to continue to deliver that. I would love to see our footprint grow to help patients get the care they need, in other
Awesome. I
communities.
know I know you and your team are doing it, but on the other side of that fear of change, the discomfort in that change is a much more streamlined, simple, productive, or fulfilled future than the pain that for whatever reason within so many practices or groups, we accept a level of pain as our norm. The
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not promising you it's going to get better, but I promise you it will be different. I mean, that's the whole
Yeah,
thing
oh,
with
of
change,
course.
right?
Of course. Of course.
And yeah, there's obviously some pain involved, and sometimes people change when there's some pain involved, but you have to embrace change, man. You have to embrace it.
100%. And I mean, that's not the focus, but I mean, the fear of change can truly paralyze
That's right.
not just people but an organization. And I mean, on the other side of that is fulfillment is like beautiful things when you dive into it. And
100%.
anyway, so Kurt, when you like what is one thing that you want to leave people with when you look at how you approach every day or what you want to leave people with in dentistry? What would that one thing be?
Yeah. You can start your day over at any time, I mean, it's just for me, we don't know what the day's going to bring. Embrace it, be excited, have fun at work, support one another. But if you're having a rough day, you can start it over anytime.
That's so good. Choose to smile, right?
There you go.
When things are rough, we are in not to be cliche, but we're in the business of dentistry. Smile, and it's going to go a long way with changing how you feel. 100%. Um, so, brother, it's so good to connect with you
Likewise, man.
again. I love what you guys are doing, and it was great seeing you in Chicago. I mean that. Let's get it on the calendar. I will come. I need to offload these bottles of wine, so let's make it happen, brother. I'll
I'm
add to you.
happy to help, and I would love to get together with you. It's a pleasure seeing you, and this has been a lot of fun. So thank you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Don't forget to all our listeners to like and subscribe so that there are more great episodes of the Dental Efficiency Playbook. Thank you, Kurt, and we'll see you on the next episode. Hey, my friends. This is the last episode before the holidays. We will have one that will release next Friday, but with it being just after Christmas, maybe some of you will listen, maybe not until after New Year's. With that said, I want to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and an extra special holiday season with family and friends full of love, gratitude, and happiness.